So Dre, doctor, how do parents identify that there's a need for further communication, not on parent level, but on a more cognitive level as far as doctors? And how do you get through that process of helping this child heal from what he's gone through moving forward?
Well, as it relates to the conversation about race, they're going to have to talk about that for the rest of his life.
Right, parents, right?
Yeah, they're going to have to always talk about racism because it's never going anywhere.
Right.
As long as we have a country with different races, of racial groups, there's going to be racism. My son, he went to East Grand Rapids School District. And before he started there, I told him, he was about 11, 12 years old. I said, I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to experience racism. And I always told him, the purpose of racism is to build inferiority into your mind. And once you internalize that, and that's what you guys are deliberately making sure he doesn't internalize it.
Right.
Exactly. Because what most black people do when they start to feel like see that they're not keeping up and they're not realizing it's the system playing a part, you start to doubt yourself. You start to feel hopeless. You start to doubt your ability. And then you start putting in less effort because you start to feel like no matter what I do, society is going to take something from me or withhold something from me. And so it's important that you guys teach them the harsh reality that as a black man, you're going to face racism. This is how you psychologically deal with it. I always tell my son there's two types of people in the world. One person, when something bad happens, they go better, they thrive, they get better, they develop strengths. The other person, they fall, they become disempowered, and they develop weaknesses. So I always tell him, when you come across racist experiences, first thing you want to do afterwards is figure out what lessons can I learn. Because one of the things that African Americans do, we face so much racism, we're so traumatized by it, sometimes we don't respond right. Mm-hmm. And what happens is, and that's what they love for us to do, because now we take away our rights.
Exactly.
In the beginning, they were wrong, but our response trumps their initial racist act.
Right.
Yeah, and so
Exactly.
if we can learn to be cool and process it in the moment in a more appropriate way, we're more likely to have a voice when you're in court. You have a voice when you're in the HR department, wherever it may be. What I would tell you guys to do is obviously that you guys have a family. It's like a curriculum that you run your children through, and it's a racially affirming curriculum. It's beautiful to be black. It's as a black person, you have a special gift set, skill set, and so you got to keep that curriculum going, because society also has a curriculum going that's trying to teach your child to be have an inferior mind state, and if he ever internalizes that, he's not going to be as productive as he should. So teaching him about what strengths has he gained, because of this situation, what strengths have you gained? What are you better at now? Because of this situation, what lessons have you learned? Because of this situation, what are you going to do to make things better for the next little boy that runs into this situation? So you got to help him find a way to use it as motivation.
Exactly.
And I feel like everything you guys are doing is important, especially the support part. I think we talked about earlier, his brain isn't developed, and he doesn't have enough life experiences to fully effectively process this situation. But because he has two supportive parents to help him work through it, eventually he's going to get closure. Yeah. And he's going to come out better because of it. So as it relates to healing, keep talking to him. I would recommend counseling. We were just talking about this earlier.
I'm in counseling.
Oh, good. So so stay there. You paying your copay? I see you selling shirts now. Good. He's getting counseling. Let him express his emotions. Sometimes as men, in general, we can somehow consciously or subconsciously communicate an energy that says don't express all that emotion.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you're doing that, but it's easy for a man to be like, quit crying.
Yeah.
This is what men go through. But the problem is, boys, their frontal lobe develops a lot later than the female. And so in the beginning, boys are much more emotional and less logic than a female by the age of like 14, 15. Yeah. And so if you're already in a very emotional state and now you're being told not to express that emotion, that's a time bomb. And add testosterone. When he gets into adolescence, he start going through puberty, he start getting testosterone, more aggression, more anger. that's when bad things can happen, because I got all this unprocessed trauma in the back of my mind. And so, like your mom, she's, like you said, she just started crying out of nowhere. She wasn't crying because of that specific, what the man said to her. It's just a level of pain that got triggered. It's a trigger to memory. And as black Americans, we have so many memories through history, even now, personal experiences, the stories of others. And so when these little things like this happen, sometimes it just triggers something. And later on, you say, maybe I shouldn't have did this, I shouldn't have said that. But in that moment, you triggered. And what you don't want to do is for him to be in a space where he gets somewhere and he gets triggered, something crazy happens, and it was all because just that
know
pain.
How to deal or that's why I said when they say, "Hey, you nigga, this is that," it's just water off our backs. We hear that and we know.